And now there's another one. And it sounds strange to me that so many prominent Australians, including politicians and academics particularly, would you believe, now call themselves Aboriginal when there's no known Aboriginal ancestor in the family tree, or none that they'll tell me. And even stranger is that even when we do expose them, for instance, here, nothing happens. No one says sorry, no one gets fired. You take Bruce Pascoe, of course, he's still Professor of Indigenous Agriculture at Melbourne Uni, still promoted by the ABC, even though his claim to be Aboriginal has been exposed as fake. Kiam Maher is still the Attorney General of South Australia, still hasn't explained why he also claimed to have Aboriginal ancestry. And Kerry Doyle is still a professor too, still claiming to be a member of the Wininini tribe that no one's ever heard of, that I know of. But this kind of thing has been going on for longer than even I suspected. Because add now to the list Professor Eric Wilmot. He also claimed to be Aboriginal, became a star of the ABC and of our universities 40 years ago. In fact, the ABC was still posting a profile of Eric Wilmot just a year and a half ago during the debate on the Voice referendum. Have a look.
Like the white man, Eric Wilmot would like Aborigines to be proud of their own achievers. People like David Yunarpin, the Aboriginal inventor, and Eric Wilmot has himself followed in the footsteps of David Yunarpin. This is his invention. And for this, he won these awards.
But Wilmot's big legacy was not any of his inventions. It was to write a book about Pemulwuy. He's an Aboriginal leader and warrior who supposedly fought for 12 years against those wicked British settlers. It's a book that's been taught in schools and universities, helped make Wilmot the big expert on Aborigines like, himself.
Aboriginal people were very careful about their genetic health.
But was Wilmot himself so genetically ridgy-dig as he claimed? Joining me is Roger Kaj. He's head of the volunteer project darkemuexposed.org, the one that's done so much to show that Bruce Pascoe was a fake Aboriginal in his book Dark Emu, Fake History. Roger Kaj, thank you so much for joining me. First, tell us how big Eric Wilmot was. I mean, we've got the University of New England still promoting him as an Aboriginal scholar who became Director of Research at the Australian National University, Principal of the Australian Institute of Aboriginal Studies, and even Deputy Secretary of the Department of Aboriginal Affairs. A pretty impressive CV.
It was very impressive, Andrew. So what happened was I'm coming to the view that there's a bit of an expediency going on. People wanted to help Aboriginal people promote them and get them into positions, and so they could make a much bigger contribution to Australia. But often there weren't enough. So what they did with him, they helped him get into the ABC promoted him in the Boyer Lectures. I don't know whether you can see that. He gave the 1986 Boyer Lecture on that. And that was in 86. Also in 86, he did it. It's quite a famous lecture. It's the Frank Archibald Memorial Lecture Series. And that was in 1986 by Professor Eric Wilmot. And at that time, Andrew, Eric was the head of School of Education at James Cook University in North Queensland. So he was occupied very senior positions within education. So his background had been a maths and science teacher, and he was a bit of an engineer, an inventor. He won in 1981, he won the Australian Inventor of the Year Award. I think it was presented by Malcolm Fraser, and Malcolm Fraser called him, I think, something like a very intelligent, smart man. So he was becoming very, very popular. And then his piece de resistance was a book. He wrote a historical novel called Pemulwuy in 1987. And he went through the records of the historical records of Australia and concocted a story about Pemulwuy, how he saw it. So he said it was historical, but it became the basis of a lot of history from that time. It's just been reprinted in 2021. There was a documentary made by the ABC in about 2015, I think. There's a movie in production. So Eric Wilmot is someone that everyone listens to as being a bit of an expert on Pemulwuy and Aboriginal education in general.
But it turns out he might have been the Bruce Pascoe of 40 years ago, because you're trained genealogists of Dark Emu Exposed, they've put together his family tree. And once again, no sign of any Aboriginal ancestry. What did you find instead?
Well, the way this came about is my website's getting quite popular now. So we got an email out of the blue from Eric Wilmot's sisters, all right? And they said, look, they've been trying to seek justice for 40-odd years, 40 or 50 years, that, you know, they're very pro-Aboriginal. One of the ladies works in an Aboriginal corporation or something, but she said the family is horrified because they know they're not Aboriginal. And so Eric suddenly came back from New Guinea in the 70s and said he was Aboriginal, and he embarked on a career of being an Aboriginal academic. So the family gave me some information. I got our genealogist to work on it, and he's got quite a simple family tree, but all their ancestors come from England, Scotland, Ireland, and one from Germany. There's no Aboriginality at all. The family discovered that. I discovered that. He's a fake, basically.
But how did he get away with it for so long? Because the weird thing is, yet again, the truth didn't seem to matter. You say the sisters came forward. They came forward in 1987, one of them went public, told a newspaper, in fact, a friend of mine back then, a colleague, that Wilmot wasn't Aboriginal. His mother said the same at the time. Another sister later also denounced him. None of that seemed to have stopped his career at all. Why is that?
Because the more I get into this, Andrew, the more disturbed I am. These fakes, there's a whole deep fake project. And when people say, oh, the institutions have been infiltrated by the Marxist communists, people think, oh, that's a conspiracy theory. But there is a deep infiltration of the fakes within our institutions, mainly academia. The ABC and the others won't even go near it to call it out, right? You're the only person having a go at calling it out. And the way they get around it is, I read somewhere that someone said it's truth being sacrificed to expediency. So imagine you're the Vice-Chancellor of a university, the politicians are yelling at you, you need to employ more Aboriginal academics. You're looking for Aboriginal academics, and there aren't actually many, right? Because they haven't been in the education system long enough. A guy walks through the door and says, I'm Aboriginal. I'll tick the box. You're the Vice-Chancellor and says, oh, that's good. I've got another one for my quota, another few $100,000 in grants. You got the job. And then once they get in, they start to get rid of real Aboriginal people. I've had real Aboriginal academics tell me their careers have been shafted by a fake. So once the fakes get in, they all start working with each other and they dominate the system. Then they employ more fakes, but no one exposes it because it gets so embarrassing and gets so entrenched that you don't want to do it. And that's what happens.
Plus, of course, calling it out makes you a racist. The truth is racist now, and so many people are scared of that. I mean, it just staggers me how any academic can think that promoting a white as an Aboriginal helps Aborigines. I think the exact opposite is true. What do you think, Bruce, Eric Wilmot's motivation was? Was he a fake because he just wanted to get ahead? What was going through his mind? Was he mistaken, maybe?
No, I think let everyone in the audience know Eric Wilmot passed away in 2019, so you shouldn't speak ill of the dead. But basically, I think it's a character flaw. It's a combination of, it's the old smoke and snake oil salesman, the showman, the carny, a deep-seated desire to be famous, to be important. And also at the end of the day, it's money. You know, if you're a maths and science teacher, as valuable as they are to society, they don't get paid much. He had to go to New Guinea to work there as a maths and science teacher. He comes back. If you can just tick a box and get a lovely academic job in a beautiful university, hang out with young people, get paid $200,000 a year, give the odd lecture, and all you have to do is keep an inner secret that you're not really Aboriginal, there's a good percent, or there's a percentage of people who will do that. They will, use BS to do it. And then they convince themselves they're helping Aboriginal people. They're helping Australia. They're helping progressivism. They've got to, move Australia forward, give Aboriginal more rights, and they're at the vanguard of it. But they're not Aboriginal.
it's just the most staggering thing, because I keep coming back to it. People like this, you will get them in any society. What I find amazing is that around them are politicians and journalists and academics who should know, probably do know, and don't call them out. That's the amazing thing. Go along with this. Well, Roger Kaj, once again, you've come up with an amazing example of exactly the kind of fakery we're talking about. Thank you so much indeed for your time.
All right. Thank you, Andrew.